Good day everyone. My name is Sheena Amarinda, BE Ed 1 Block F. So today, my chosen topic in Science, Technology and Society STS is the chapter for Climate Change and Energy Crisis. Learning outcomes. At the end of the chapter, the student should be able to identify the cause and effect of climate change, assess the various impacts of climate change including economic, geopolitical, biological, meteorological, and etc. Apply STS concept to the issue of climate change. Describe the energy crisis and its causes. And lastly, identify possible way by which energy crisis can be prevented. Climate change is one of the fundamental challenges ever to confront humanity. Its adverse effect being seen may intensity over time if nothing is done about it. So what is climate change? Climate change refers to the change in global or regional patterns, in particular change apparent from the mid-late 20th century onwards and attribute largely to the increased level of atmospheric carbon dioxide by the use of fossil fuels. It is catch-all term for the shift in worldwide weather phenomena associated with an increase in global average temperature. Climate change, also called global warming, refers to the rise in average surface temperatures on Earth. NASA defines climate change as a broad range of global phenomena created predominantly by burning fossil fuels which add heat trapping gases to Earth's atmosphere. This phenomena includes the increased temperature trends described by global warming, but also encompasses changes such as sea level rise, ice mass loss in Greenland, Antarctica, and Arctic mountain glaciers more worldwide, shift in flower plant blooming, and all extreme weather events. What are the causes of climate change? Most climate scientists agree that the main cause of current global warming trend is human expansion of the greenhouse effect. Warming that results when the atmosphere traps heat radiating from Earth towards space. Life on Earth is dependent in an atmospheric greenhouse, a layer of gases. Primarily, water vapor in the lower atmosphere that trap heat from the sun as it's reflected back from the Earth, radiating it back and keeping our planet and at a temperature capable of supporting life. Human activity is currently generating an excess of long-lived greenhouse gases that, unlike water vapor, don't dissipate in response to temperature increases, resulting in a continuing buildup of heat. Greenhouse gases that contribute to the greenhouse effect include water vapor, carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide. This is the water vapor. Water vapor is the most abundant greenhouse gas but importantly acts as a feedback to the climate. Water vapor increases as the Earth's atmosphere warms, but so does the possibility of clouds and precipitation, making this some of the most important feedback mechanism to the greenhouse effect. Next is carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is a minor but very important component of the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide is released through natural processes such as respiration and volcano eruption, and through human activities such as deforestation, land uses changes, and burning fossil fuels, humans have increased atmospheric carbon dioxide concentration by more than a third since the Industrial Revolution began. The main source of excess carbon dioxide emissions is the mere burning of fossil fuels, while deforestation has reduced the amount of plant life available to turn carbon dioxide to oxygen. Next is methane. Methane is a hydrocarbon gas produced both through natural sources and main human activities, including the decomposition of waste and in landfills, agriculture and especially rice cultivation, as well as ruminant digestion and manure management associated with domestic livestock on a molecular basis. Methane is a far more active greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide, but also one which is much less abundant in the atmosphere than nitrous oxide. Nitrous oxide is a powerful greenhouse gas produced by soil cultivation practices, especially the use of commercial and organic fertilizer, fossil fuel combustion, nitric acid production, and biomass burning. Lastly is the chlorofluorocarbons, synthetic compounds entirely of industrial origin used in a number of application, but now lightly regulated in production and release to the atmosphere by international agreement for their ability to contribute to destruction of ozone layer. They are also greenhouse gases. Our warming climate is also creating a feedback loop as greenhouse gases trapped in Arctic permafrost are released. What are the effects of climate change? The effect of anthropogenic human-caused climate change range from more frequent and severe drops to a snowstorm in extreme weather in temperate regions as a result of warming Arctic weather fronts. It's not only humans that are affected. Warming ocean temperatures are increasing the frequency of coral reef bleaching. Warmer, drier weather means that forests in some regions are no longer recovering from wildfires, and wildlife habitats around the world are becoming less hospitable to animals. How is climate change affecting the Philippines? The Global Climate Risk Index listed the Philippines as the number one most affected country by climate change because of its geography. The Philippines is located in the western Pacific Ocean, surrounded by naturally warm waters that will likely even get warmer as average sea surface temperature continue to rise. To some extent, this is a normal pattern. The ocean surface warms as it absorbs sunlight. The ocean then releases some of its heat into the atmosphere, creating wind and rain clouds. However, as the ocean surface increases over time from the effects of climate change, more and more heat is released into the atmosphere. This additional heat in the ocean and air can lead to stronger and more frequent storms. This is what has happened to the Philippines. 5 of the deadliest typhoons have occurred since 2006, affecting and displacing thousands of citizens every time. The deadliest storms on record in the Philippines is Typhoon Yolanda, which was responsible for more than 6,300 lost lives, over 4 million displaced citizens, and 2 billion peso damage in 2013. The Philippines also lacks of natural barriers. As a collection of over 7,000 islands, there is almost nothing standing between them and the sea. In addition to their coral reefs, one of the best buffers against typhoons are the Philippine mangrove ecosystem. These mangroves help mitigate the impact of storm surge and stabilize soil. But almost half of these have disappeared since 1918 due to deforestation. Other natural factors like regional wind patterns or currents also increase the risk of tropical storm. Sea levels in the Philippines are rising at about twice the global average, and when it rises to 15 to 20 feet, as what happened during Typhoon Yolanda, millions of citizens in coastal communities in the Philippines have been displaced. In the Philippines, the effect of climate change and global warming cannot be denied. There used to be a clear delineation between the dry and wet weather or summer and rainy months. January to June have always been known as the dry months, while the rest were wet months. Summer in the Philippines means hot, sunny days and temperature are quite high. Wet months, on the other hand, are characterized by typhoons, windy days, and suspended classes. During wet months, sunny days are unusual and in fact unexpected. Nowadays, however, the wet and dry days occurs anytime in the year. Pierre Ranada on January 22, 2014 stated 6 ways by which climate change affects our country. Number 1. More intense El Niño. The El Niño phenomenon occurs when the surface of the ocean waters in the southern Pacific becomes abnormally warm. The energy created by this is so great that it can create an imbalance in the weather in the different parts of the world. In Southeast Asia, it can lead to abnormally dry conditions. El Niño can also make weather events like storm highly unpredictable. Weather will have extreme high and lows, making it increasingly difficult to predict weather patterns for purposes of planning and normal business operation, says a WWF Philippines study. Number 2. Sea surface temperatures to rise. By the end of the century, sea surface temperatures are expected to rise by 1 to 4 degrees Celsius. This can lead to more powerful storms because storms get their strength from heat rising from the sea. In the Philippines, 4 and 5 degrees Celsius spikes above the normal sea surface temperature have been recorded. Warmer seas kill coral reefs and can thus lead to a decline in fish catch, putting food security in danger. Number 3. Ocean acidification. The shift in the pH level of our ocean can lead to widespread coral reef death. Because of the imbalance, shrimp are not able to develop skin, oyster cannot develop shells. Fish larvae may not be able to develop bones. This further endangers food security and livelihood. Number 4. Sea level to rise by 4 to 6 meters. Current data show an increase in sea surface heights. Scientists say that this is due to the melting of ice sheets in the southern and northern portion of the globe, like Antarctica and Greenland. Sea level rise by 4 to 6 meters can submerge low-lying communities like Tacloban City, which stand only 3 meters. Number 5. Tropical cyclone to intensify. The creation of tropical cyclone is already being recorded in areas where the phenomenon had never been observed. On November 8, 2013, Super Typhoon Yolanda, Haiyan, said to be the strongest in recorded history devastated cities in Visayas. Number 6. Rainfall, river flow, and flooding to intensify. Monsoon rainfall in the Philippines will reach new high and lows. Some parts of the country will make it more difficult for agriculture and aquaculture sector, which are highly dependent on water. Philippine cities are already experiencing unprecedented amounts of rainfall. In Tacloban City, rainfall increased by 25% from 1998 to 2011. More rainfall will lead to more flooding and can trigger landslide in upland communities. So climate change also impacts our country's ability to feed people by Karen Bermejo on 2017 rule. Climate change is altering production ecosystem and compromising food security and nutrition of millions of people in the Philippines. According to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, according to Jose Manuel Fernandez, United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization representative to the Philippines due to climate change. Crop yields are expected to decline by 25%, while catches of many fish species are expected to decline by 40% in tropical countries like the Philippines. Number 2. Climate change also affects farmers. Because of too much heat, too much rain, crops are ruined. An example of this is the 8-month drought, which affected the Western Visayas region from October 2015 to May 2016, which damaged crops in more than 80,000 hectares farmlands and resulted to more than 2 billion pesos in losses. The drought has also affected farmers and crops in the provinces of Quezon, Camarines Norte, Samar, Laguna, and Mindoro. Number 3. Food security declines. The Global Food Security Index (GSFI) shown the decline in the Philippines, ranking from 74th, it dropped to 79th among 113 countries based on the data released by the Economist Intelligence Unit. Number 4. Malnutrition increases. Based on the latest National Nutrition Surveys of the Food and Nutrition Research Institute FNRI of the Department of Science and Technology DOST, malnutrition rate in the Philippines is also increasing. The Philippines malnutrition rate or stunting among children under 5 years old has increased 33.4% from just 30.3% in 2013. What is energy crisis? Energy crisis is any greater bottleneck in the supply of energy resources to an economy. In popular literature, though, it often refers to one of the energy sources used to a certain time and place, particularly those that supply national electricity grids or serve as fuel for vehicles. The energy crisis is the concern that the world's demands on the limited natural resources that are used to power industrial society are diminishing as the demand rises. These natural resources are in limited supply. While they do occur naturally, it can take hundreds of thousands of years to replenish the stores. Governments and concerned individuals are working to make the use of renewable resources a priority and to lessen the irresponsible use of natural supply through increased conservation. The energy crisis is a broad complex topic. Most people don't feel connected to its reality unless the price of gas at the pump goes up or there are lines at the gas station. The energy crisis is ongoing and getting worse despite many efforts. The reason for this is that there is not a broad understanding of the complex causes and solution for the energy crisis. Causes of energy crisis. Some of the causes of the energy crisis were identified as follows. 1. Overconsumption. The energy crisis is a result of many different strain on our natural resources, not just one. There is a strain on fossil fuels such as oil, gas, and coal due to overconsumption, which then in turn can put a strain on our water and oxygen resources by causing pollution. Number 2. Overpopulation. Another cause of the crisis has been the increase of the world population and its demands for fuel and products. No matter what type of food or product you choose to use, from fair trade and organic to those made from petroleum products in a sweatshop, not one of them is transported without a significant drain in our energy resources. Number 3. Poor infrastructure. Aging infrastructure of power generating equipment is yet another reason for energy shortage. Most of the energy producing firms keep on using updated equipment that restrict the production of energy. It is the responsibility of utilities to keep on upgrading the infrastructure and set a high standard of performance. Number 4. Unexplored renewable energy options. Renewable energy still remains unused in most countries. Most of the energy comes from the unrenewable sources like coal. It still remains the top choice to produce energy unless we give renewable energy a serious thought. The problem of energy crisis cannot be solved. Renewable energy sources can reduce our dependence on fossil fuels and also help reduce greenhouse emissions. Number 5. Delay in commissioning of power plants. In few countries, there is a significant delay in commissioning of new power plants that can fill the gap between the demand and supply of energy. The result is that all plants come under hard stress to meet the daily demand of power. When supply doesn't match demand, it results in load shedding and breakdown. Number 6. Wastage of energy. In most parts of the world, people do not realize the importance of conserving energy. It is only limited to books, internet, newspaper, ads, lip service, and seminars, unless we give it a serious thought. Things are not going to change. Simple things like switching off fans and light when not in use, using maximum daylight, walking instead of driving for short distance, using CFL instead of traditional bulbs, proper installation for leakage of energy can go a long way in saving energy. Poor distribution system. Frequent tripping in and breakdown are result of a poor distribution system. 8. Major accident and natural calamities. Major accident like pipeline burst and natural calamities like eruption of volcanoes, floods, earthquakes can also cause interruption to energy supplies. The high gap between supply and demand of energy can raise the price of essential items, which can give rise to inflation. Wars and attack. Wars between countries can also hamper the supply of energy, especially if it happens in Middle East countries like Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, UAE, or Qatar. Price of oil reached its peak, causing global shortage and created major problems of energy consumers. Number 10. Miscellaneous factors. tax hikes, military coup, political events, severe hot summer, or cold winters can cause sudden increase in demand of energy can choke supply. A strike by unions in oil producing firms can definitely cause an energy crisis. What are the possible solutions to the energy crisis? Many of the possible solutions to the energy crisis are already in place, but they have not been widely adopted. They are: Number 1. Move towards renewable resources. The best possible solution to the energy crisis is to reduce the world's dependence on non-renewable resources and to improve overall conservation efforts. Much of the industrial age was created using fossil fuels, but there is also known technology that uses other types of renewable energies such as steam, solar, and wind. The major concern isn't so much that we will run out of gas or oil, but that the use of coal is going to continue to pollute the atmosphere and destroy other natural resources in the process of mining the coal that it has to be replaced as an energy source. This is not easy because many of the leading industries use coal, not gas or oil, as their primary source of power for manufacturing. Number 2. Buy energy-efficient products. Replace traditional bulbs with CFLs and PLEDs. They use less watts of electricity and last longer. If millions of people across the globe use CFL and LEDs for residential and commercial purposes, the demand for energy can go down and an energy crisis can be averted. Number 3. Lighting controls. There are a number of new technologies that make lighting control much more interesting and help save a lot of energy and cash in the long run. Preset lighting controls, slide lighting, touch dimmers, integrated lighting controls are few of the lighting controls that can help to conserve energy and reduce overall lighting cost. Easier grid access. Number 4. People who use different options to generate power must be given permission to plug into the grid and get credit for power you feed into it. The hassles of getting credit of supplying surplus power back into the grid should be removed. Apart from that, subsidy on solar panels should be given to encourage more people to explore renewable options. Number 5. Energy simulation. Energy simulation software can be used by big corporations to design, building unit and reduce running business energy costs. And engineers, architects, and designers could use the design to come up with the most energy efficient building and reduce carbon footprint. Number 6. Perform energy audit. Energy audit is a process that helps to identify the areas where your home or office is losing energy and identify steps you can take to improve energy efficiency. Energy audit, when done by a professional, can help you to reduce your carbon footprint, save energy and money, and avoid energy crisis. Number 7. Common stand on climate change. Both developed and developing countries should adopt a common stand on climate change. They should focus on reducing greenhouse gas emissions through an effective cross-border mechanism. With current population growth and overconsumption of resources, the consequences of global warming and climate change cannot be ruled out. Both developed and developing countries must focus on emission cuts to cut their emission levels to half from current trend levels by 2050. Assessment task. Why is the study of climate change important? So, for me, it is important to study climate change because you will know what you will do when climate change is occurring to your place. You will know how to plan or prepare for that, and you will be safe. Studying the climate helps us predict how much rain the next winter might bring or how far sea levels will rise due to warmer sea temperatures. We can also see which regions are most likely to be affected by extreme weather or which wildlife species are threatened by climate change. So next question is, how does climate change affected our country? So the impact of climate change in the Philippines are immense, including annual losses in GDP, changes in rainfall patterns and that distribution, drops threats to biodiversity and food security, sea level rise, public health risk, and endangerment of vulnerable groups such as women and indigenous people. Increased heat, drought, and insect outbreaks, all linked to climate change, have increased wildfires, declining water supplies, reduced agricultural yields, health impacts in sites due to heat, and flooding and erosions in coastal areas are additional concerns. And the number 3 question is, give your own understanding of energy crisis. My own understanding about energy crisis is, it is the concern that the world's demand on the limited natural resources that are used to power industrial society are diminishing as the demand rises. These natural resources are in limited supply. While they do occur naturally, it can take hundreds of thousands of years to replenish the stores. And that's all. Thank you.